Marlon Brando met with Michael Jackson. This is the focus group.
It's the savvy side of 9 to 5. Listen.
Bueller.
Laugh. And learn.
Negotiation. This is what you do in business.
This is the focus group with Tim Bennett.
Staunch.
And John Nash.
Keep your clothes looking neat and clean.
We're all business. Except when we're not.
Welcome to the focus group. John Nash here with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Tim Bennett. It is the beginning of September. The kiddies are going back to school. Hey, focusgroupradio.com is our website, and that's all you need to know about us is there. So focusgroupradio.com. That includes the audio and video, the video from today's show. The audio is there as well. Also available on Spotify, SoundCloud, iTunes, etc., and our podcast Unbuttoned. If you don't know about it, by all means, check it out. And it's once a week, about 20 minutes long, 3 topics. Tim and I like to say that it's a little more edgy. That's a perfect look on your face, like, ish.
Told it could be edgier.
Ish. We've been told to be edgier. That is true. That is true. So welcome to calendar fall.
And why is everybody pushing this season?
I don't know, and it's not really fall yet. Because
No, everyone's pushing the season. I can understand putting away the white bucks.
Well, that's a rule.
That's a rule.
That's like from Serial Mom, right?
Right, which is posted to our Facebook page today, by the way.
Did you really do that?
A friend of mine, Bernadette, who listens to the show, she had sent me this GIF. Is that how you say it?
It's a GIF, yeah.
GIF.
I would go with
And
GIF, yeah.
so it's the Serial Mom where she's looking.
It just keeps repeating.
She's looking at the white bucks in the courtroom.
That movie is so... I love that movie. And it's because of Kathleen Turner and her portrayal as that crazy mother.
She's sitting there looking at it, and then she says, it's after Labor Day or whatever, and that rule doesn't matter. Yeah, oh, no, yes, it does. Does she beat her with a phone or something?
Yeah, basically. And then she does that thing where she would crank call all the time.
I love that one.
That was the best. So... one of my favorite things about living in New York, and a lot of us who live in the city will tell you that sometimes we don't want to live here. It's expensive, it could be loud and dirty, but my favorite thing about New York City is the people.
I thought you were going to say the pizza.
You and I have not. Garrett turned us on to good pizza down by Penn Station.
Which we haven't had since then.
We haven't had a long time. Anyway, I ran into my...
I never get you to go out and get pizza.
I'm not a... I like pizza. I like it a lot, but it has to be a certain kind of pizza, you know. Anyway, I ran into my neighbor, Barbara, and Barbara lives in my building, and she's a really great woman, lives down the hall, and we ran into each other near the grocery store, and she's getting ready to go on a trip to Europe, and she's going to Albania. Have you ever wanted to go to Albania?
No.
Well, it's a unique destination, so we're talking.
Does she know people there or something?
There's a whole, a favored uncle of hers set up a school there many years ago before the war, and then the State Department worked with him. It was an interesting story of how she has a connection to Albania, but she wanted me to check out something later. I was going to help her look at something, and I said, I'll stop by later. She goes, come by tomorrow. It's perfect. I'll be getting my stuff ready for packing. She's thinking about what to wear and what to bring. And I just randomly said, are you packing for carry-on? And she instantly said, I don't pump gas, and I don't do carry-on. So that was my that was the second time yesterday or today that a quotable quote comes to me. I love that
How
line.
old is she?
Barbara's probably early 80s, maybe.
Early 80s?
Yeah, I don't pump gas, and I don't do carry-on. That's a rule to live by, right?
I agree with her about the carry-on. I like to pump gas because it's quicker. That's what I don't like about New Jersey. New Jersey is the only place. I think Oregon used to be the only other place.
It's a law.
Right, but it was the law in New Jersey and Oregon for a long time, and I think Oregon actually has lightened up on it. But in Jersey still, you have to let them pump your gas, and sometimes it takes them too long, I think.
I had Costco gas for the very first time ever. So on the way back from, we had a photo shoot you and I did down in Philadelphia. We were photographing products for one of our clients, and on the way home, I wanted to go to Costco, and Tim said, well, there's one right around the corner from where we're at, but if you're buying frozen stuff, you might want to go
a little
further
closer
north. So I went to the one in Edison, New Jersey, which is maybe about 25 minutes from our apartment, half an hour. First of all, as Tim has noted before, if you're a Costco fan or shopper, every store is a little different with stock. So I found some stuff I've never seen before. I found things that you've recommended.
Did you get the cauliflower?
We got the
What'd you think?
cauliflower.
I think it's delicious.
It's like having mashed potatoes, but it's cauliflower. It's fantastic. This was the store that had the full wine and spirits. They had a whole section of Costco, by the way,
Kirkland.
and Kirkland stuff. And our friends Pat and Gary, they now know our secret because I think we talked about how I'll buy the Kirkland vodka and pour it into the Tito. So now they know when they come over to the house if they want a Tito's and tonic, they're really getting Kirkland and tonic.
Which tastes
The same.
or better.
Oh, because we think that it's actually the Grey Goose that's in
Grey
the
Goose or
Kirkland. Yeah.
Kettle One or something.
So I get to the car and I notice that there's a whole gas station right on the parking lot of Costco. And I just stare at it and I realize it's Costco gas. My mother's husband's talked to me about this before. So I drive up their lines, very efficient. They put 2 cars up at once. And yes, somebody had to come out and pump the gas, but it was at least 30 to 35 cents cheaper per gallon,
Wow.
which was actually surprising.
Did you have to give him your Costco card?
Yeah, you showed the card, but apparently, according to the woman that took it, she goes, "We really don't worry about that. As long as you're here, you're shopping on the Costco property." But Costco gas, yeah, there you go.
I haven't done the Costco gas. I've seen it. I just haven't done it. And
Do you have it at your location?
Not at the ones I go to, but there are some that I've been to that do have it, and I just don't bother with it. But I should check it out for the price of it. I'm going to rewind a little bit. What kind of pizza do you like?
Well, I like thin crust.
You said there was a particular type of pizza you
I
wanted.
like thin crust, plain old marinara sauce and some cheese.
That's it.
And if you actually,
No pepperoni or sausage.
can I
or
be
mushroom?
really truthful with you? My favorite pizza was introduced to me by you in California.
Pizza, California Pizza
Kitchen, the barbecue chicken pizza.
See, I never think those are real pizzas, only because pizza to me,
It's got dough.
Nope. Pizza is a red sauce and cheese, and then maybe a pepperoni and a sausage. And mushroom.
When you say a pepperoni, you mean
Like
slices.
slices. I don't
plural.
like all this. I'm going to have barbecue this, or I'm going to have pineapple and ham, or all this other nonsense. Basic pizza, cheese, tomato sauce, and then you have some meats. What do the boys in the booth think about pizza?
Plain.
Plain?
I go for plain all the time.
Plain old
Anchovy.
marinara. Yeah.
Anchovy? You
Anchovies
do
on
not.
my pizza. I swear to God, it's
I'll
so
do
delicious.
anchovy too, but
It's my
Are you
favorite
guys
pizza.
serious? You like
Steve and Jared,
anchovies?
anchovy eaters.
Yeah, it's like really salty and delicious and
yeah.
Do you put it? Will you take the anchovies on a Caesar salad?
Oh yeah.
yeah. It's the only thing that makes
Request
the
them.
salad any good.
You were like the only. I could not find. I could not go outside and find 2 people that agree on anchovies.
If you and I carried around a $50 bill, like two at the same, they're sitting next to each other too.
Right.
It's not like random 2 people from Manhattan.
You
They're-
discussed
each
the
other.
anchovies before you
It
two.
was, it was
We
fate.
did probably like a few weeks ago, just
Yeah.
by accident, I guess. We had a pizza conversation. He brought up anchovies, and we both.
Yeah, guys, when
Then
did,
we
when did you?
hugged.
Yeah.
What, I remember the first time I ever tasted anchovy. No way. I was yeah, no.
Yeah, try
Sometimes
it
they
again.
look a little too hairy. Is it hair on them or what is it?
Bones.
Tiny, tiny bones that, yeah.
Bones.
It's even worse than hair. It's
Well-
bones. Just
Better quality anchovies don't get like caught in your throat like that. But
puts hair in your chest.
yeah.
the premium anchovies. They go down smooth,
Will
right?
you eat
Bones and all.
sardines? Will you eat the sardines out of a can?
All the time.
I would, yeah.
See, my father does that. My father used to do that as a kid with a snack.
Oh,
They
no.
were kind of the oblong can,
Yeah.
packed in oil or whatever. He would always, he
Is
loved
that the
them.
kind of the key?
Yeah.
You wait till they go on sale for $1 a tin at the grocery store, and you stack up.
I couldn't get over eating the heads and the skin.
The heads aren't
Heads are
usually
gone.
on it.
Yeah, no heads.
Sometimes heads on
The
it.
bones in it, but not the head. That I've seen.
Ooh, is it this? Are sardines salty? Is that?
No,
No?
No, not sardines.
Are they oily?
they're
come
usually
in
packed
oil,
in
yeah.
oil.
Packed in oil.
Yeah.
I'll get you a can for your birthday.
No, don't even bother. I'll give it to the boys in the booth.
I think you should try them, though, John.
Do you like sardines?
No. I mean, I've had them out places where they've had them as an appetizer now. It's kind of like kale. You know, throw sardines away, use it for fish chum. But now people eat it. They've been eating them forever. My dad's been eating them forever.
So many years ago, my very first advertising client for the gay market was the Netherlands Board of Tourism, NBT. And they used to they were a fun bunch. And one time, Kees Bosselaar, the guy that ran it, he was Dutch, but he lived in New York, and they cycle through. One day he says, "You got to come to the Kipperfest."
Oof.
Okay, so you know where I'm going, right? So I was like, kipper. He goes, oh, this is a traditional Dutch thing, the kipper. So we go to the Oyster Bar in Grand Central Station, which is a great old, vaulted brick thing. All the Dutch are there, and he's waiting because he knows I'm not going to. And they showed us the correct way of eating the kipper. You got to,
Did you eat it?
Well, it's a client. So this is one of the things where you're trapped, right? It's your client. They're writing the checks. They want you to have a kipper. You're like, okay.
Did you chew it? Did you eat it?
So it was him, his assistant, this really fun woman. I forget her name now. Christiana, I think is her name. And two other guys, and we were all worked together, so they knew me. So he made sure they were around when I did the kipper, and apparently the look on my face was worth the cost of admission.
They knew your number.
Because the minute I finished, I could barely get it. They were all start laughing, and he's like, "Don't you worry, no more kippers for you." But then the woman later, she goes, "Oh, we just did that." She goes, "You performed admirably." I was like, "Thanks." Ugh, sardines, kippers, and anchovies. Ugh.
Well, you don't know. You're not very adventurous with food anyway. You've gotten more adventurous since I've met you and forced you to have certain things.
You're not very adventurous.
You're not adventurous at all with food. You're not. You never have been. You don't like sushi. You pretend you do. You don't like it.
I don't like.
You don't like raw fish.
The only time I liked sushi, and I bet you can guess when I liked sushi.
Nobu.
Nobu.
It was all full of little special sauces.
It was all
That's
treated.
That's why you liked it.
Yeah, and you knew that was going to happen when I had it. It was a Hard Rock.
It's like eating candy. That's the candy of sushi. If they slather it with so much crap, you're just really eating the syrups. Gotta get sushi. Some nigiri.
I'm not. Are you guys the sushi fans?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, very much so.
Really?
Yeah.
Could you imagine if I ate anchovies and hated sushi?
Steve, touche. Yeah, that's a very good logic line there. I agree. I'll buy it. Yeah.
I had a friend of mine who used to say, God bless him, he's dead, John P. Brown.
Oh, yeah.
I remember one time, and he was very kind of this man about world and very much a bon vivant. And I would have thought he was right up, in on the sushi. And so we went out to a sushi restaurant, and he goes, let's leave immediately. He goes, I want my food cooked. It's like, okay.
Let's leave.
It's like, I don't eat my food unless it's cooked. All right.
We could do, and I'm
book of his quotes.
Being dead serious, you could do a whole John P. Brown show.
Yeah.
Because there were so many things that he said and
Wisdom.
did. Well, it's if you combine that with a show he could never do, it would be Band at the Ranch.
Yeah.
That's when you worked at the Headhunter.
Oh.
That show would be, we'd have to put like an explicit rating. It might be worth doing though. People used to act and talk a certain way, right? That was the way you did business.
Did it.
All right.
They hired a headhunter to find a specific person, not just anybody.
Very specific. I wish I could share.
Right?
Someday.
Right, that's what happens.
So what caught your eye?
What caught your eye? Here's what Tim and John found.
Speaking of being politically correct, which I guess where we were going there, this one really fried me. This was
like fried, like you put your finger in.
This was from
socket.
CNN, and so many of you who have followed the show for the last 11, going on 12 years, know that I have Canadian roots and Canadian heritage, but on the English side.
Canada.
Oh, Canada, but the English side. So many people know Canada's got two official languages. French, or as
Canadian
the French would
French.
say, French-Canadian.
Thank you. The French are very specific
and English.
about that. Yeah.
And when it happened back in the 70s, 80s, probably the 80s, my grandmother was wound up. They lived in Nova Scotia. She was born in England. And she would be very upset by it because she said it would be as if the state of New York decided the other 49 states also need to speak German. And you've never spoke German before.
Got it.
And you're making all the
non-German
speaking states, because there's a lot of people who speak German in New York. You have to learn German in Hawaii, and you're going to have to be able to cater to all the German language people as well as. So it used to tune her up. And then I had relatives on both sides of the family. That was my dad's side. My mom's side, they had a big campground in New Brunswick, and I remember one summer we were up there. And my uncle had to go away to do something with my grandparents, and he said, mind the campground. He said, if anybody comes in, here's the menu for how much things are for the plugins and whatever. And he said, unless the French come in, charge them full price. And I said, why? He says, because they learn English real quick. He said, they're going to come in here, and they're going to speak French. We don't speak French. They're going to want us to speak French. We don't speak French. I'm not learning French in my 70s. He said, so when they come in and start speaking French, I just charge them the full price. They learn English real quick. So he said that's...
In other words, he'll say, here's what you're being charged. And then suddenly they'll say, well,
Oh, no, wait, the sign says, oh, you do speak English. So
that's, boy, I see the origins of your.
So the
That was your,
precursor-
is that your grandfather that said that?
that was my mom's side of the family.
okay, I got it,
my
yeah.
grandfather's brother-in-law.
I see where you get it from.
Uncle
I see
Forrest,
where you get it from.
Forrest and Lottie Wiggins had a campground
there you
in
go.
Brunswick. My grandmother Florence Bennett she was the one about the example of German. So this is the headline. Air Canada has to pay $15,000 to a couple
Yes.
because the word lift was not engraved on the seatbelts in French. So if you go
On the buckle, right?
on the buckle, which was probably made in Les États-Unis by Boeing or something. If you go to the next page, so if you're walking, so if you go close up on that buckle, that's an airline seat buckle.
It usually says lift right
Lift.
there. Yeah.
So they sued and won $15,000 because that also was not engraved in French on the Air Canada plane.
They won. Even if the words weren't there, there are pictures showing you how to use it.
First of all, is there anybody in the world, third world including, that doesn't know how to use a seatbelt? That was one of my pet peeves on an airplane when they have to show you how to insert the buckle and lift it. Does anyone not know how to do that? Have you ever met anyone that doesn't know how to use a seatbelt? Anyone?
Steve's saying no. Computer says no.
So let me just read what happened. A recent complaint turned into a lawsuit, which led to a windfall for two travelers. The federal court in Canada ordered Air Canada to pay more than $15,000, 21,000 Canadian, to send a formal apology letter to a French-speaking couple in Ottawa who said Air Canada repeated language equality violations. The lawsuit concerned more than 22 complaints by Michael and Linda Thibodeau, and they filed this lawsuit back in 2016. This isn't the first time they filed lawsuits. They sound like a fun couple. Apparently, they've also
A litigious couple.
litigious couple. They've also complained in 2005, 2011, and 2012 that Air Canada had violated their French language rights. So, as it is in Canada, they also alleged the French translations of the words exit and morning were in smaller characters than the English words, and that the French language boarding announcement at the airport was less detailed than the English boarding announcement.
So they knew both.
Of course
knew
they
both.
did.
Okay, this is crazy.
Air Canada systematically violates our linguistic rights as francophones, according to the Thibodeaus.
Did you practice that? The
No.
francophones, yeah.
So they said that they've actually sued the first time in the Canadian charter, the Canadian courts had kicked it out. But so there is a Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in the Official Languages Act, which is to ensure that English and French are given equal status in Canada. So that's how they won. So they ended up winning all of this money. They said that the airline though did argue that the decision to engrave lift on the seatbelts was not an Air Canada issue, but a issue of where they had purchased manufacturing issue from the
Airbus
airplane.
And by the way, if you buy a plane from Airbus, the buckles come with the word lift, and Airbus is a French company. So
They said that Thibodeau said that they should be serving the Francophone customers the same way they serve the English and the Anglophones and blah, 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 blah. So they went on. They said they'll still keep flying Air Canada. But
yeah, I would keep flying. They have money for plenty of tickets now, right?
Yeah.
We're not, we're not doing a lot of things. We didn't invent Facebook. We're not suing enough people. Apparently, if you keep suing, you're going to get something, right?
Here's my other thing. I know we don't have official language in our country, in the United States, but I think we should, because that's why India is a mess. And I think this is a problem with Canada.
Is because
and again, because you've got this, you're placing two things against each other.
Or
when you see press conferences in the government and the prime minister has to answer one question in French, one in English, blah, blah, blah. But with us, because we've all come in the United States or as Americans, we all come from somewhere else, and most of us come from places that spoke a different language. The only thing we have in common is our language in some regards. If we have different religions, we have different cultures, different nationalities of places, or different...
So if we don't have a formal...
We're one of the few countries that doesn't have an official language.
But if I rephrased it and said to you, what is the language of business?
Well, the language of business and commerce and education is English. Yeah. However... we've kind of gone down this rabbit hole, where we're now teaching in multiple languages in schools, which never used to happen. You can get a driver's test in 31 different languages in California. Yeah. If you can't read the sign in English, you shouldn't be in a car.
Well,
I don't go driving cars in Japan because I can't read the letters.
And I was just going to bring up one big thing. Japan was one of the few countries that was slow to actually begin adding other languages to the road signs and stuff as tourism increased. But for years they were adamant. If that's
I can't read Japanese, I shouldn't be on the road because I'm in danger. So I get it. I'm in your country. I should speak your language. So anyway, I think we're going down a slippery slope in this country. This is a very far right opinion, though. I mean, the Democrats and everybody believe we should just, have commerce and speak in any language we want to speak in. I don't agree. I don't know what you agree.
I would say that
You think we
I
should,
already
you
kind
think
of
we
gave
should
my
have an
answer.
official language?
Well, I think I defer to the language of business, which is if most countries tell their population to learn English as a second language because that's the business world, yeah, I would go with English as our language, right?
So do you think we should make it our official language?
I don't see why not.
Yeah, okay, we agree.
I would put. My mom just brought this up the other day when my great grandmother arrived from Germany.
Spoke German?
She never spoke German again.
Right. Or she might have spoken at home with family, and that's fine.
There was a hard and fast rule that she was now an American and she was going to speak English. So there you go, right? If she thought that our language.
Do you know what our official language almost was?
No.
One vote. The vice president voted. It was a deciding vote. The colonies, they were deciding between English and what do you think the other language was?
Couldn't it be French, could it?
It was German.
It was German.
And by one vote,
yeah.
English won by one vote. And historians have done a very interesting take on this and thought, what would have happened in World War I or II if we were a German-speaking country?
Oh, that's fascinating.
Something to think about. I mean, if we were
so fascinating
we were a
because-
huge German-speaking country, and World War II breaks out with the Germans,
Yeah, 'cause
would it have been different because we culturally may have been.
I was going to say they linked language very closely to nationalism. Yeah. So that's interesting.
So that caught my eye.
So what caught my eye is one that really is going to catch all your eyes, especially, and we're going to have to talk to Garrett and Steve in the booth about this one too. It was a letter to an advice column. I'm just going to read the letter because here we go. Dear How to Do It. I'm a 27-year-old straight woman. I recently dated a man for several months who was odd about sex. He frequently mentioned that he had a small penis, which he did. That's what she says, and that oral sex was what made him a good lover. I don't particularly care for oral sex, but I cared for him very much. There were a lot of problems in the relationship outside of sex. He had a bit of a cruel streak, and then there would be an apology spiral, and we eventually broke up. I have moved on and am dating a lovely man, but yesterday my ex sent me an email saying that he was bottoming for men he met online the whole time we were dating. He said he's straight but curious, and he felt he needed me to know and wanted me to accept him. Parentheses, I didn't get any STIs from him, and he said he used protection. I'm sort of floored. I'm not sure why he told me and what this meant about our months together, which loom larger in my mind than they probably should. I think he should embrace his sexuality, but how am I supposed to respond to this information? He was an asshole and made me feel terrible as a girlfriend, but I'm thinking that he has a lot of repressed sexual shit, and I want to be there for him to realize it. What do I say? Could you, all right, if someone, a woman says, my ex was bottoming for men the entire time we were dating, but he's just curious and exploring, in what
Curious as once.
Curious. There you go. Curious as once.
If I were her, I'd type back and say I understand why he'd be a bottom because you had such a small penis, and that he probably didn't kill himself.
And then let's go to the health thing here, right? So he claims he was using protection, but didn't he put her at risk too? Because that's the more.
He's gay.
Well, guys, like I'm not crazy, right? If someone
Or
read this
gender
to you,
nonconforming. I mean, what are we supposed to say?
I was shocked. I just don't know how you would process this if you're her. It was just weird.
Boys,
Are you guys speechless in the booth about her?
I think he's just gay.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty.
And she needs to look in the mirror.
what's that mean?
Well, if you're attracted to that type of person, there's something
Yeah, Garrett.
Back in your subconscious, that's attracted to him for a reason.
If
Yeah.
you like gay guys with small dicks, maybe you should.
You don't just randomly find a guy and like him, and he happens to be doing this secretly, and then after you break up, write you an email just to hurt you again and stuff. Like, there's something happened in her background too, I'm guessing.
Garrett the Wise, GTW. Garrett, it's like Gandalf the Wizard or something. But you're right, because she did say earlier that he had a cruel streak.
Yeah.
So he was clearly not a nice person at times, and then you throw this in. But
You should have reinforced that he had a small penis. That's what I would have done.
hey, well,
That's why he's bottoming, right?
That's right. That's what I would have said. You're bottoming because you've got a small penis. I feel sorry for you. I hope you find what you're looking for.
But let's not forget. Let's go back to your first thing. Curious is once.
Yeah.
And she doesn't say how long they were dating, but if it was months, then you can assume that there was more than once. I just my mouth opened when I read this. And the reply, by the way, was one paragraph. And the advice columnist replied basically saying, do what your heart tells you to do, but I need a follow-up to this letter. So she basically said, the woman who was the advice, she said, do what you want to do, but let me know how this turns out. Because I'm sure she was just as skeptical as we are, about this. But anyway.
So it looks like we have a call here. Hey, Billy. Is Billy still on?
Yes. It makes me want to crack open a can of sardines.
I know. Or have some kipper or some anchovies.
Yes. Well, you certainly have covered a wide range of topics today.
And that's even before getting to business things.
Yes.
Like keep your checkbook balanced and and count your pennies or whatever it is. But yeah, Billy, you're right. We're all over the map today.
Oof, my. I have to do a little damage control from last month's call-in because I got red on it.
Red on? What happened?
Well, you and I had discussed that thing about the doll last month, the anatomically correct doll from Japan.
Oh, no, Billy, that is my artist posing assistant model. Yeah.
Tim would say that's a dolly.
It's a dolly, but I call it my artist helper. Yeah.
I had mentioned something about the size of a penis and the Asian connection, and of course I got shit about it. It was a joke, people. It was merely a joke.
You're kidding me. Where'd you get in trouble? On the Facebook feed or something?
Facebook, personal friends are like, how could you say that was very racist? I says, it was a joke. Please.
Billy, I have a friend, a good friend who's Asian. He was born here, but his family hails from Japan. Over lunch one day, and he's straight. He literally just said, he goes, by the way, he goes, everybody's aware that culturally we're supposed to have small penises.
Yeah.
I didn't say a word. He goes, it's okay. He goes, we're just having a conversation. And I said, well, that's sort of the stereotype. I don't know if it's true. He goes, no, it's not true. He goes, it's like everything. Everybody comes in all shapes and sizes. Because I just wanted to confirm that was a stereotype.
Yeah,
so he knew that we were not talking about, Anyway, that's...
They had been upset if you had said African Americans are larger than other people.
Well, because of my friends that... I can say from personal experience, everyone, that I know better because I have seen some love dragons in my day.
Yeah.
I don't know. Well, I'm sorry you got in trouble for it. I get in trouble all the time, though, Billy, for my mouth, so I understand it. We used to get in trouble. We get in trouble for calling the guys in the booth the boys in the booth. We get lots of.
Well, we get positive feedback.
We're not all positive. It says we're being dismissive by calling them the boys in the booth. Or we used to call the girls and
we had
girls.
two women that we had, Katie and Carolyn, and they loved it. They were like,
don't call them girls.
Oh yes, back at XM, yes.
Yeah, we weren't allowed to call them girls. They didn't mind. Maybe. Who knows?
John, I will bring you cans of sardines to Ghent next weekend if you want.
They're going to fly in on the plane, right? You should airdrop them, I suppose. We could recreate a World War II airdrop of food supplies.
I'm going to get John sardines for his birthday. Or no, anchovies maybe, or sardines for his birthday. ARP card.
I don't have the word lift on my seatbelt buckle in the plane either, so I have no words at all.
All right, Billy.
Okay. John, maybe I'll see you again. I'll let you
Hopefully,
know.
I got all the info on the fly-in, and I hope it's going to be a beautiful day. I think it will.
Yeah.
So thanks for calling, my
Safe,
friend. And
Billy.
don't take, everybody, let's not be so serious, right? I mean,
Yeah, so if this was Frank DeCaro, I would be in no trouble at all.
that's true. That's true. You know what, Frank, we still laugh about Frank does something where, like, he'll say, when he was on the air, like, he'll bring up a celebrity, she's dead, or he's dead, Bob still loves that. I don't know
dead?
why. He's dead, Frank would do that. Yeah.
Really?
Makes me want to break out that cookbook.
The Dead Celebrity Cookbook. All right, Billy, thanks for calling.
Thanks,
Later,
Billy.
guys. Bye.
So our business birthday today.
Everyone does celebrity birthday greetings, but the Focus Group is the only show in the universe that celebrates business birthdays.
This is one of these people that has a bio that's like a novel, or not a novel, but a 100 pages long. So I tried to scale it down, and I'll try to scale it down even more. But celebrating, or no, he's not celebrating, he's dead.
He's dead,
He's dead, He died at 65. Born today, September 4th in 1846, is Daniel Hudson Burnham. Do you know who he is? Was an American architect and urban designer.
Burnham, sure.
He was an environmentalist and also a supernatural aficionado. He said if he had more time, he'd be able to prove that there's an afterlife. He just didn't have time.
Did he know Harry Houdini? I guess they're around the
He was
same time.
director of works for the World's Columbian Exposition in Chicago, which they referred to as the White City. Remember that?
I do, yeah. That's Ferris wheel was introduced there.
He took a leading role in the creation of master plans for the development of a number of cities, including Chicago, Manila in the Philippines, Washington, D.C. He also designed several famous buildings, including the Flatiron Building here in New York City of the triangular shape, Union Station in Washington, D.C., the Continental Trust Building, and Tower Skyscraper in Baltimore. A number of buildings all over the country. Essentially, if there was a skyscraper or something that was built between...
Did you say he did Union? That's a picture of Union
Yeah.
Station in D.C., right?
Yeah,
It's a beautiful station.
Pretty much, if you look at the list of his feats, if you were any major city in the country between 1896 and 1912, he probably had something to do with the building of one of the grand buildings in your city. The list is just exhaustive of things he's done. But I laughed because he said that he was not a good student, but he was good at drawing. So at 18, they got him a private tutor. He wanted to go to Harvard or Yale, but he failed to get in either because he had test anxiety. But years later, he got honorary degrees at both, which was somewhat funny.
Kind of sweet revenge, right?
Right. He tried his luck at all kinds of different positions and ended up finally landing as a job as an architect. And in 1881, the firm that he worked with built the Montauk Building, which was the tallest building in Chicago at the time. It was so tall they didn't really know what to call it, and that's how they came up with the name skyscraper. It was coined by journalist Thomas Talmadge.
All right.
He was an architectural critic. So he goes on and on with all the stuff he did. I'm not going to get into it all because I think it could get into the weeds. But he wanted to redesign San Francisco after the earthquake, but they said it would take too much time. But I wonder what it would have
Interesting
looked
idea.
like had he had
A
after
chance
the
to,
earthquake, had he
yeah.
had a chance to do it. Same thing happened in a number of other cities. They just said they didn't have the time for him to do it. He interesting story about him. On April 14th, 1912, he and his wife were aboard the SS Olympic, traveling to Europe to go tour Heidelberg, Germany. He tried to send a telegram to his friend Frank Millet, who was traveling in the opposite direction on the Titanic.
They're sister ships, Yeah, and they're almost identical. The Titanic was longer, but...
So he learned on the journey that his friend had died in the
how weird.
sinking of the Titanic.
And he was on the sister ship
They were
when he
passing
learned.
each other. Yeah, he sent a telegram and learned that the ship had sank, and then his friend did not survive. He ended up dying. Burnham died 47 days later from colitis and diabetes and food poisoning from a meal he ate in Heidelberg.
Wow.
Frank Lloyd Wright did not like him, but admired him and said he was masterful at his method and was an enthusiastic promoter of great construction enterprises, a powerful personality with supreme being. So, but the list of stuff, Union Station, we mentioned, the Marshall Field department store in Chicago, and the final building he did the Wanamaker's in Philly. He did the very, very final project he worked on was Filene's department store in Boston. that he designed and built. His firm, at the time when he died, was the largest in the world, largest architecture firm. And the successor firm to his practice from the late 1800s was a company called Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White, which continued up in 2006. So it was around quite a while.
I should have known Burnham when you said the name because I studied architecture in college, and he and Stanford White and a few other architects literally defined the skylines of most American cities with their building designs.
And they said, there was that book, there was a famous book that was written about the exposition in Chicago. What was it called? Devil's?
Well, it's Devil in the White City.
Yeah.
And that was it's a fun story because it's historical fiction, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it takes place in a real thing, but
he's featured well in that book as well. So happy
that Chicago World's Fair Columbian Exposition, a lot of stuff happened. He was involved. The Ferris wheel was introduced at that.
Yeah, they said that they were going to make it very modern.
That was their whole.
So it was going to be a very modern, futuristic sort of thing, and they wanted to also do a little bit of a Beaux-Arts look to it, they were calling it Paris on the Prairie.
Yep, that's right. That's exactly right, Paris on the Prairie.
The other partner died, and so a bunch of architects came in and take it over, and they took all his designs away, and it ended up doing what they did.
Which looked great, but it didn't look futuristic, for sure. Hey, if you're a friend of the show, then you must be a friend of Deep Discount. You can get to Deep Discount by visiting focusgroupradio.com and clicking on Sharky the Shark. Arr! It's the shark logo. The puppet's not here this week. He may come back. And I don't know, by the way, why I do a pirate. It's the sea. It's the chanty. It's, who knows when I do
Pirates get sharks, I wonder.
Dude, pirates, what?
Did they have? There's shark issues with the pirates. I don't know if we ever saw any
shark issues with the pirates.
Whale issues. Arr. I've got a cough drop in my mouth. If anyone's listening.
So anyway, Deep Discount is a partner of ours here on the show, and this month is Criterion Month. And Tim and I love Criterion titles because of all the extra footage, interviews, and backstory and back matter they give you. Plus, when Criterion takes a title and releases it, it's usually in a beautiful, cleaned up print with gorgeous sound. So I always recommend a Criterion title if it's one of your favorite movies. So we're going to be giving away some Criterion titles this month, and we're going to play Pick That Flick, which is a game we used to do over on the old network. And this month, we're going to talk about this week, we're going to talk about this first giveaway is for a beautiful box set. It's kind of big, of Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing. 1989. This is his 1989 masterpiece, confirmed him as a writer and filmmaker of peerless vision and passionate social engagement. Do the Right Thing is a fun movie. Ever see it?
Yeah. Why is it a box set? What's it come with?
There's a lot of stuff in here. There's multiple discs.
What's their interviews and
total? Yeah.
Backstory.
Mm-hmm. I'm looking and this whole section down here is all the extras, all the and how it's culturally impacted people, the whole bit. So if you want to win a copy of Do the Right Thing, here's what we're going to do. Garrett is going to play for us an audio clue. If you know the name of the movie this clue came from, then drop us a line at letters@focusgroupradio.com. That's letters@focusgroupradio.com. Let us know the name of the movie. And include your name and mailing address. You don't have to do the mailing address if you don't want to. If that's an email that you check frequently, great. But sometimes I've gotten notes from people who've won and then they never email back because they're using we all have those accounts that we use for other things. So, Garrett, why don't you play the clue?
What is her hold on him?
I have no idea. Apparently she has certain skills acquired in an establishment in Shanghai.
These are by the way, all our listeners,
clips.
Yeah, all our listeners are extremely good at the movie game, and they guess anything over 10 seconds they're guessing. So, Garrett, play that again for us.
What is her hold on him?
I have no idea. Apparently she has certain skills acquired in an establishment in Shanghai.
So, letters@focusgroupradio.com, name and possibly your mailing address if you don't check that email too often. Runners up, I think we might give 2 or 3 pairs of Focus Group socks away if you don't get the name of the title we just played. But first person to guess it over the next several days will get a copy. They'll get Do the Right Thing.
We need your address.
Yeah, but unless they check their email. Some people do, and they say, here's my address. So another thing we want to mention is that Deep Discount's going to be carrying very soon a new version of Sega. Well, it's Sega Genesis. It's been miniaturized, and it comes with 2 classic 3-button panels, but it's coming out mid-month, probably around the 19th or so. But it's the classic Sega Genesis that we grew up with, or I was growing up at the time when it came out, and I wanted one. Comes with 40 games, including Tetris and a few others that you will definitely recognize if you visit the site. Comes fully loaded, all set to be plugged in, and you can start playing right away. No need for anything other than the kit that you buy when you buy it. So I say keep your eyes out there for
Plug it back into the set.
That's exact. HDMI cable, done. You're set.
That'd be a good gift for somebody.
I think so. And at the very least, these are the games that I'm actually good at. the ones that are like go back and forth or like Space Invaders. So what's our release this week?
So the new release this week is Men in Black International on Blu-ray. A childhood encounter with an alien and a sighting of the mysterious Men in Black has led Molly to spend the last 2 decades trying to find the elusive agency's headquarters. Tessa Thompson is Molly. When she actually does, she's invited to join the team. This is another one of those series of. Have you watched any of the Men in Black movies?
Only the first 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I loved the first because some of my favorite actors were in it too. Tommy Lee Jones, Rip Torn, Will Smith was in. These are the guys. That's the ones that I know, the originals.
Liam Neeson's in this. Emma Thompson. I remember them having a great soundtrack.
Oh, they did. Yeah, totally.
They still do, I'm sure. So hey, we also want to mention that Rocket Man's also available at deep discount now. Did you see Rocket Man in the theater?
We saw it we saw an ad for it, and then Bob said, "Oh, I want to see that," and then he realized it was already out of the theater into Blu-ray. Taron Egerton plays Elton John, and he did his own vocals, and apparently he used to spend a lot of time in the makeup chair to get to be Elton John.
I saw that. It said he had to shave off half his hair every day and paint his teeth. Why do you have to paint his teeth? Were Dylan have bad teeth? British. Oh, that's a stereotype. Sorry, Billy.
No, you have to apologize to Billy. Apparently everybody else is ganging up there.
Upset. So is that why he had to paint his teeth?
I don't know. They didn't explain that.
I'm going to have to look at Elton John's teeth now.
I'm going to have to check that out. But because it just ends. It says, and he painted his teeth, period. Like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, so Rocket Man's also available at Deep Discount now. The way to get to Deep Discount is, the best way is to go to focusgroupradio.com, click on the Deep Discount logo, and start shopping away. We like you to do that because we get credit for it. So it's Criterion Month. If you missed the clue, just rewind the show, and you can hear it again and get a chance to win Do the Right Thing, which is special Criterion gift pack with multiple discs, John says, and lots of extras.
Lots of stuff.
And send your guess from Pick That Flick to win that to letters at focusgroupradio.com. The Sega Genesis Mini is also available for pre-order, and the new release is Men in Black. Right, Garrett?
Thanks, Deep Discount.
We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we have a couple of shop talks to discuss. One of them that John mentioned about Marlon Brando and Michael Jackson, so I'm curious about that, so stay with us.
You're listening to The Focus Group with Tim and John. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com. Focus on the savvy side of 9 to 5 with The Focus Group.
Try, really try.
Listen, laugh, and learn with Tim and John.
I never try anything. I just do it.
Brown schematics.
Welcome back to the Focus Group. John Nash with Tim Bennett. FocusGroupRadio.com is all you need to know to find out more about us. All the broadcasts we have, audio, video, and of course, On Button, which is our Tuesday audio podcast. Comes out Tuesday mornings, 3 topics. Subscribe, like, and rate. All right, couple of quick shop talks. I teased at the beginning of the show. All right, so the headline just says, about that time Marlon Brando confronted Michael Jackson about his sexuality, ... It just gets weirder, folks. So the New York Times published a news story that Marlon Brando discussed his friendship with the sexuality of Michael Jackson during a police investigation into child molestation charges in 1994. Brando's admissions seem to confirm that the documentary Leaving Neverland seem to confirm the facts of that documentary. The newly uncovered document came to light as part of an ongoing podcast about Jackson's legal woes, which I had never heard about.
Oh.
Telephone Stories, The Trials of Michael Jackson. When asked about Jackson's romantic life, Brando made a horrible confession. We were talking about human emotions and where it all comes from. I could see from the way he behaved. He talked like that. He speaks in a very peculiar way for a man who is as old as my oldest son, 35, and he didn't want me to swear, Brando told investigators. I had asked him if he was a virgin, and he sort of laughed and giggled, and he called me Brando. He said, "Oh, Brando." I said, "Well, what do you do for sex?" And he was acting fussy and embarrassed. "Oh, Brando. Oh, Brando," or whatever. That's terrible.
Oh, Brando.
So he further elaborated that Jackson didn't hold real emotions. When the actor pressed the issue, Jackson broke down. He said he hated his father and started to cry. So I pulled back. I started to tiptoe. I realized that he was in trouble with his life because he was living in a never-never land and he couldn't swear. And for a 35-year-old man not to do that, being around people in show business, seemed very odd. That was a little nugget there, right? And I said, "Well, who are your friends?" He said, "I don't know anybody my own age. I don't like anybody my own age." And I said, "Why not?" And he said, I don't know. He was crying hard enough that I tried to assuage him. I tried to help him all I could. And then Brando just finished by saying, pretty reasonable to conclude that he may have had something to do with kids. So this is just one of those creepy things that's going to start coming out, right?
I was trying to figure out what the horrible confession was.
The horrible confession sounds like the clickbait headline, right? Because basically Brando just concluded in his police interview by saying, based on how he talked, I guess you could make a reasonable assumption that he had something to do with kids, right?
Right. And then they also said that he thought he might have been, I think it says up here, that he might have also been gay, which has nothing to do with being a pedophile. But I don't know. Did you watch the documentary?
Well, yeah, the two-parter. I had to split it up. I had to watch one night and then the other half a couple days later. I thought it was pretty powerful and disturbing.
Did you believe the kids or the guys?
Yeah,
now
I sure did. Yeah. I mean, the story. Well, particularly one aspect that I got talked about a lot, where one of the young gentlemen was talking about fixating on a cardboard cutout of Peter Pan while Michael was doing something to him and to himself. I mean, that's a pretty specific detail. So I don't know. The interesting thing about everything that went on when that documentary came out, a number of stations kind of turned the dial down on Michael Jackson's catalog. But maybe 4 or 5 weeks went by and the songs are all back in rotation. So I don't know. Did you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. It said here after that documentary came out, and they said that a number of his close friends, including Oprah Winfrey, Aaron Carter, and Corey Feldman, have said they believe the men who claim that Jackson molested them. When I watched it, I was more disturbed with the parents who allowed their kids.
Oh, yeah.
If you're okay, you get enamored by the fact of you're getting this infection from celebrity. But would you let your 12 or 13-year-old boy go into another part, and not just another room of the house, but another wing,
and share a bedroom with an adult
behind 3 or 4 different locked doors with a secret passage that you knew existed, and then the kid is kept in there?
Is it? I don't. That was when we were watching the Neverland documentary. That was the preeminent question on both my mind and Bob's mind. Was if you knew that. And they described in detail how far removed some of these places were.
Locked door. The kids were trapped in there. The parents were getting paid to pimp their kids out. Bottom line.
Boom.
Parents should be arrested.
Boom.
Don't you think?
If I could take this mic off, I might drop it.
Did you guys watch the Neverland thing?
I saw clips of it.
What do you think of Michael Jackson?
Based on that movie?
Or just overall?
I didn't really believe the movie at all.
Good singer.
Interesting.
You didn't. Why
Interesting.
not? You thought those people made it up?
Well, there was one part that I knew for a fact they edited incorrectly to make it look raw, like it was worse than it was.
Oh,
Because there was a
interesting.
part where Mark Garagos is Michael Jackson's lawyer.
Correct.
And they took a private jet somewhere, and the captain or the pilot taped the conversation and said he was going to release it. So Mark Garagos goes on TV and says, "If anyone does this, I'll go after them with the full extent of the law." Blah blah blah. In the movie, they show the kid saying, and then we tried to sue Michael Jackson, and they go to the clip of Mark Garagos screaming, "We'll go after these people no matter what," meaning like they'd go after these kids. But it wasn't. He was saying they'd go after this pilot that recorded a conversation, and they edited it to make it look like Michael
Garrett.
Jackson was trying to screw the kids in court somehow. Yeah.
Garrett, so smart. Once again, they constructed a story from actual pieces,
Yeah.
but the linearity is all,
The things they were saying, if it was so real, they wouldn't have to make up anything.
correct.
Present the facts, yeah.
Well, he was certainly a talented entertainer and troubled.
Talented and troubled.
Right? I mean, that's...
Well, like,
sad.
not only talented, but like game-changing, music industry-changing, transforming talented.
Yep.
Anyway.
What was the other one?
Second is a quickie, and it's the real reason shoppers are not returning to your store. This was an interesting one to me, especially for this statistic. 86% of consumers continue to make most of their purchases at brick and mortar locations. That number, you'd think that everything was being done digitally, but that number surprised me. But being that that's the case, apparently the relationship between a physical store or any store and us as consumers is very tenuous, and it comes down basically to customer service, right?
Yep. Yeah, it comes down to customer service and whether it could be also the little things. If you go in to a store, as is it clean? Is it neat? Is the restroom clean? Is the parking lot
safe,
taken care of?
How long do I have to walk from the car to the?
I actually had this conversation with a mutual friend of ours the other day, Todd, who said that a new restaurant had opened in his neighborhood and he wanted to really support it, and but the parking lot was always filthy. So he said something to the owner, who just kind of looked at him. He said, "But the next time I came back, the parking lot was spotless," and he goes, "and it's never been dirty again." He said, "But my thought was the restaurant was nice inside, but in order to get in there, you had to go through this dirty parking lot." He said, "You need to get somebody out there and clean up that parking lot." And
well, Todd knows, right?
Yeah, no. So it did make sense, and they gave three other reasons. What were they gave three other reasons why they said people might
simply
not
a messy store. Beyond having a dirty bathroom, cluttered shelves, dirty floors, simple aesthetic changes, but if the store is messy, someone's not going to enjoy the shopping experience, right?
The second thing was stores should be shoppable before experiential. So meaning that the basic amenities and the ability to touch and shop needs to be there before you get into all the other hocus pocus. Here's your selfie wall.
Right. And then the last one was one bad experience is all it takes. This one item that's any industry. Anything.
Have you had a bad experience and never gone back?
Yep. One bad experience is all it takes for you to not patronize someplace because, frankly, we could go anywhere else to do something, right? Or most places.
Yeah, they said 69% of the shoppers were less likely to return if they did not have a good experience. And for people that what they consider high-income shoppers, it was as high as 76% would not return. I thought that one was interesting because, although... where I thought this article was going initially when you had pointed this out was I've gone to the malls recently, which are empty.
Yeah.
So I do find it odd that they still say 86% are still shopping brick and mortar, but maybe that's everything. Go to the grocery store, da-da-da. But I've gone in to buy things off-season, I guess. So if I wanted a polo shirt in winter or if I wanted a long-sleeve shirt in summer.
Good luck.
They're not carrying it. They all tell you to go online. I even went to an Orvis store to get a pair of shoes I had seen online because I wanted to see what they looked like. I just want to order blindly. They said, "We don't carry shoes anymore. It's all done online." And so I need to try shoes on. And I want to see them.
And this is my new biggest pet peeve with buying clothing in particular. So you're right. I'm not capable of buying. I can buy a pair of shoes offline if I have that identical pair and I know my
you know
size.
how it fits.
Sure.
Or you know what it looks like. It's not cheap or glued or whatever.
So there's a fitness company called Roan, R-H-O-N-E, Roan Fitness. They have 2 stores here in the city, one on Broadway, one over at the new Hudson Yards. Do you know when you go into the one on Broadway, it is more of what they call kind of an example store. So it's example of their products. So if they carry 10 kinds of different shorts you could work out or run in, maybe they'll have 3. And then the rest you have to figure out online. But this is clothing you're wearing to work out, and you would like to know that it fits correctly, right? Or that it looks okay. Same with shirts. And then one day the woman says, you should go over to our Hudson Yards store. They have a little more merchandise. They have more of a range. And I went over there, and they did have more of a range, but they still didn't have everything in the store. So pants are the same way. I'm not just going to buy a pair of pants offline, unless, of course, I bought them before and I know it's a Levi's, whatever, right?
Restoration Hardware is starting that nonsense now, where all the stores are just set up like these little vignettes. But I'll say, where is this certain chair I want to sit in it? Oh, that's you have to order that online. I want to sit in it. Don't ask me to spend $5,000 for a chair and I can't sit in it.
So
that's why those outlets are doing so well. Everybody buys that crap and sends it back.
Exactly. So is the solution then? Maybe in the future it's a showroom. You're able to sample all the products. You go to a kiosk.
But have them all then.
But you better have all your product line, right? Tap, tap, tap. Okay, it's going to be delivered in 2 days. I'll accept that, but I do need to try it out and check it out.
Yeah. Crazy.
There you go.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. Be sure to head over to focusgroupradio.com to learn more about us, to learn about our podcast, which is TFG Unbuttoned. Also, you can check out Deep Discount there. Be sure to click on the Deep Discount logo. It's Criterion Month, and there's information about the movie this week was Do the Right Thing. Chance to win that through...
That's Criterion Month. And then the release this week was the new Men in Black.
Men in Black International. And thank you, boys in the booth, Steve and Garrett. Thank you, John. And remember to arrive alive, don't text and drive. Did I say it right? Was that wrong?
It's the same thing. Arrive alive, don't text and drive. Don't text and drive, arrive alive.
Arrive alive. Don't text and drive. I don't know. I think it can work.
Both ways.
It's The Focus Group with Tim Bennett and John Nash. Accessible on all platforms. Subscribe, like, and rate us on your platform of choice. Learn more at focusgroupradio.com.
That was a stunning focus group.